The courtroom was silent. The air was thick with tension. Everyone's eyes were glued to the judge, who sat high on her bench, lips curled into a cruel smirk. Judge Victoria Caldwell, a woman known for her sharp tongue and colder heart. And today, she was in her element. She leaned forward, peering down at the defendant, a black man in a wheelchair. His name? Malcolm Green. Pathetic, she sneered. A crippled thief? You disgust me. Can't even run. Yet you thought you could get away? Laughter rippled through the courtroom. Some of the jury members chuckled. Even the bailiffs exchanged amused glances. But Malcolm? He stayed quiet. His face showed no emotion. Judge Caldwell wasn't done. She tapped her gavel lightly against the desk. I should have known. People like you are always causing trouble. Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper, but filled with venom. A disabled black man. What use are you to society? Gasps filled the room. Even the prosecutor's mouth fell open in shock. The judge had gone too far, but she didn't care. Let's get this over with, she sighed, rolling her eyes. The evidence is clear. You are guilty. She lifted her gavel, and that's when Malcolm did something no one expected. He stood up. The room froze. Mouths dropped open. The jury, the lawyers, the audience, no one could believe it. Even the bailiffs, who had been standing casually by the doors, snapped to attention. Judge Caldwell? Her face drained of color. Her eyes bulged as she gripped the edges of her desk. What? Malcolm took a step forward. His movements were strong, confident. His eyes burned with a fire that sent chills down everyone's spine. And then he spoke. Judge Caldwell, he said, his voice deep and steady. Let me introduce myself properly. A pause. Malcolm pulled a badge from his pocket and held it up for all to see. The courtroom gasped. Judge Caldwell stumbled back in her chair, her breath coming in quick, panicked gasps. Malcolm stared straight into her horrified eyes and said the words that shook the entire room. I'm Agent Malcolm Green, FBI. 3 weeks earlier, Malcolm Green had never been an ordinary man. He was an FBI agent, one of the best. Smart, quick, and fearless. He had taken down drug lords, arms dealers, and corrupt officials. But this mission was different. This time, he wasn't chasing criminals. He was hunting a judge, Judge Victoria Caldwell. The FBI had received numerous reports about her. Whispers of corruption, cases where innocent people, mostly black and poor, were sent to prison with no real evidence. Murmurs of secret deals with prosecutors, lawyers, and even law enforcement. But there was no proof. She was careful, too careful. Until now, Malcolm's boss, Director Carter, had come to him with a plan. A risky one. You'll go undercover, Carter said. You'll pose as a defendant in her court. A nobody. Someone she'll underestimate. Malcolm had agreed. And so, the plan was set. He would fake a small-time crime, get arrested, get assigned to her courtroom, and then he would wait. He would let her show her true colors. Let her expose herself. It didn't take long. The moment Malcolm rolled into her courtroom in a wheelchair, she had looked at him with nothing but disgust. And every day after that, she made her feelings clearer. She mocked him. She ridiculed him. She belittled him in front of everyone. But Malcolm stayed quiet. He played his role. He listened. He watched. And he recorded. Hidden in the wheelchair were tiny cameras. Every insult, every racist remark, every illegal move she made. It was all captured. Evidence. Enough to destroy her career. Enough to send her to prison. But Malcolm wasn't done yet. He needed one final push. One last moment where she would fully reveal herself. So he waited. And today was that day. Judge Caldwell had just sealed her fate. By openly mocking him. By declaring him guilty without proof. By showing the world her true self. And now, it was time for him to end the game. Malcolm stood tall, his badge shining under the courtroom lights. Judge Caldwell, he said, his voice calm but firm. You are under arrest for corruption, abuse of power, and multiple violations of civil rights. The courtroom exploded. Gasps. Shouts. Judge Caldwell shot to her feet. This is a joke. This is... Before she could finish, the doors burst open. FBI agents stormed in. Guns drawn. Judge Victoria Caldwell, an agent, barked. Put your hands where we can see them. Her face twisted in panic. She looked around wildly, as if hoping someone would save her. No one moved. Her hands trembled. Her breath came in short gasps. She tried to speak, but no words came. Then, in one last act of desperation, she turned and ran. Judge Victoria Caldwell ran. Her heels clicked wildly against the polished courtroom floor as she bolted toward the side exit. The once powerful judge, who had just moments ago mocked a man she thought was beneath her, was now running like a cornered rat. "Stop her!" one of the FBI agents yelled. The bailiffs hesitated. They had spent years taking orders from her. But now, she was the criminal. Malcolm didn't move. He just watched. Calm. Steady. Judge Caldwell reached the side door. Her hands fumbled against the handle. Locked. She spun around, her chest heaving. The agents were closing in. Her eyes darted around the room, desperate for another escape route. The jury, the lawyers, the audience, everyone was frozen in shock. No one would help her. Then, her gaze landed on something. A gun. One of the bailiffs, a young officer, had his hand near his holster. And she lunged. The room erupted. "Drop it," an agent shouted. But Judge Caldwell wasn't listening. She ripped the gun from the bailiff's belt. Her hands shook as she raised it, her fingers slipping onto the trigger. The agents pulled their weapons. "Put the gun down, Victoria." Malcolm's voice was sharp, commanding. Her eyes flickered to him, to the man she had belittled, the man she thought was weak. Now he stood before her, tall, strong, unshaken. Judge Caldwell's lips trembled. Her carefully built world was crashing around her. She had spent years holding the power, years deciding the fate of others. And now, she was the one being judged. "Don't do this," Malcolm warned. Her hand wavered. Then, she screamed and pulled the trigger. Bang! A shot rang out. Gasps. Screams. People ducked under benches, shielding themselves. For a moment, everything stopped. Then, Judge Caldwell staggered back, her face frozen in shock. Blood bloomed across her shoulder. She had been shot. One of the agents had fired first. A clean shot, non-lethal. The gun slipped from her fingers and clattered to the ground. She clutched her wound, her breath sharp and ragged. She fell to her knees. The agents rushed forward. She was done. Malcolm walked up slowly, towering over her. "This could have gone differently," he said, his voice low. "You had a choice." She lifted her head, her eyes filled with rage and humiliation. "You set me up," she hissed. "No," Malcolm said. "You set yourself up." The agents yanked her arms behind her back, snapping cold steel handcuffs around her wrists. "Judge Victoria Caldwell, you are under arrest." The courtroom remained silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone. She had fallen, and Malcolm Green had won. 2 days earlier, Malcolm sat in his small cell, waiting. It had been part of the plan. The FBI made sure he was arrested for a minor offense, fake shoplifting charges, just enough to land him in front of Judge Caldwell. The guards treated him like a nobody, just another case. They didn't know who he was, and neither did she. That was the key. To get to her, he had to be seen as weak. So, Malcolm played the role. The helpless, disabled black man. He let her sneers roll off him. He let her words cut deep, knowing that every second she spoke, she was burying herself deeper. And she didn't hold back. "You people are always looking for handouts," she had said at one point. "Pathetic. You probably think the government owes you something." Malcolm had gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay silent. She had no idea who she was talking to. Every insult, every cruel remark, recorded. His team was listening. They just needed one last moment, one final piece of evidence. And then it came. The day before the trial, Malcolm had been brought into her courtroom for a brief hearing. Judge Caldwell had leaned forward, smiling coldly. "I don't even need a trial," she had said, almost laughing. "Look at you. I already know you're guilty." She had said it in front of everyone. The jury, the lawyers, the spectators. And in that moment, she had sealed her fate. Because Malcolm's wheelchair wasn't just a prop. It was wired. Every word had been broadcasted straight to the FBI. The moment she said it, the agents outside had nodded. They had enough. The next day, the trial was just a formality. A trap, and Judge Caldwell walked right into it. Back in the present, Malcolm stood outside the courthouse, breathing in the fresh air. It was over. Judge Caldwell was in federal custody, awaiting trial. Her career? Finished. Her life? Destroyed. Justice had been served. But Malcolm knew this wasn't the end. She wasn't the only corrupt judge out there. And he wasn't done yet. Not even close. Malcolm sat in the back of the black FBI SUV, staring out the window as the city blurred past. The courthouse was behind him. Judge Victoria Caldwell was in custody. The mission was complete. So why didn't it feel over? His partner, Agent Lisa Carter, sat in the front seat, scrolling through her tablet. "You should be celebrating," she said without looking up. "One of the most corrupt judges in the country just got taken down because of you." Malcolm didn't answer. Lisa turned, raising an eyebrow. "Come on, man. Talk to me. What's bothering you?" Malcolm exhaled. "It was too easy." Lisa frowned. "Too easy?" She literally pulled a gun in open court. "That's the problem," Malcolm said, rubbing his chin. "She was desperate. Cornered." He shook his head. "Someone like her? She should have been untouchable. She had connections. Power. But the moment we exposed her, she panicked." Lisa's fingers hovered over the tablet screen. "You think she knew something?" "I think she knew she was disposable," Malcolm said. "Someone was protecting her. And the second she became a liability, they left her to burn." Lisa chewed on her lip, thinking. Then she swiped through her files, pulling up a list of Judge Caldwell's known associates. If someone was backing her, they weren't just letting her go. They were replacing her. Malcolm nodded. A bigger enemy was out there, and they had just started a war. 1 week earlier, the plan had been set in motion, but Malcolm still had doubts. Going undercover as a disabled man had been risky, but necessary. He needed Caldwell to expose herself, and she had. But as Malcolm sat in his small holding cell, waiting for trial, something gnawed at him. The way she carried herself. She had been too bold, too comfortable, as if she believed nothing could touch her. It wasn't just arrogance. It was certainty. Someone powerful was protecting her. And now that she was exposed, they would be coming. Back in the present, the SUV pulled into FBI headquarters. Malcolm and Lisa stepped out, walking briskly toward the elevators. Inside, they went straight to the command center, a dimly lit room with monitors flashing court records, financial transactions, and security footage. Director Carter was waiting for them. His face was grim. "We have a problem," he said. Lisa glanced at Malcolm. "Bigger than a corrupt judge?" Carter nodded. He gestured to the screen behind him. It was a list of sealed court cases, all ruled on by Judge Caldwell. But next to each case was something more disturbing. A new judge's name. Malcolm's stomach clenched. They hadn't just removed Caldwell. They had replaced her. Lisa cursed under her breath. "Who is it?" Carter clicked a button, and a name appeared in bold white letters across the screen. Judge Richard Holloway. Malcolm felt a chill run down his spine. Holloway wasn't just a judge. He was one of the most powerful judges in the country. Respected, untouchable, and now he was in the same seat Caldwell had just vacated. Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper. "We didn't cut the head off the snake." "No," Malcolm said, his jaw tightening. "We just woke it up." 2 days later, Malcolm parked outside Judge Richard Holloway's mansion, his hands gripping the steering wheel. This was a bad idea, but he had to know. He had to see him face to face. The FBI wasn't ready to make a move on Holloway yet. They needed more evidence. But Malcolm couldn't wait. Judge Caldwell had been a monster. But Holloway? He was something worse. A man who didn't make mistakes. A man who never lost. Malcolm stepped out of the car and walked toward the grand front doors. Security cameras tracked his every move. He wasn't trying to be sneaky. He wanted Holloway to know he was here. He knocked. A butler answered, but before Malcolm could say a word, a deep voice echoed from inside. "Let him in." The butler stepped aside. Malcolm walked into the lavish home, past marble floors and expensive paintings. Judge Richard Holloway sat in a leather chair by the fireplace, sipping a glass of wine. He was older than Malcolm remembered. Mid-60s, gray-haired but sharp. Too sharp. "You're bold," Holloway said, setting his glass down. "That's what I like about you, Agent Green." Malcolm didn't sit. You know who I am? Holloway smiled. Of course I do. You took down Victoria. Impressive work. Malcolm's fists clenched. You don't seem too upset. Why would I be? Holloway leaned back. She was sloppy. Weak. She got herself caught. Malcolm's blood ran cold. So you knew what she was doing? Of course. Holloway shrugged. But Victoria was nothing more than a puppet. And do you know what happens when a puppet breaks? Malcolm didn't answer. Holloway's eyes gleamed. You replace it. Silence stretched between them. Then Holloway leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. Walk away, Agent Green. Malcolm stared at him. Holloway's smile didn't waver. You don't understand what you're up against. Oh, I do, Malcolm said. You're just another corrupt judge who thinks he's untouchable. Holloway chuckled. No, Agent Green, I'm not untouchable. His smile faded. I'm a man who decides who lives and who dies. The weight of his words settled between them. Holloway wasn't just a corrupt judge. He was something far worse. Malcolm's heart pounded, but he didn't let it show. He turned to leave. But before he reached the door, Holloway spoke one last time. Be careful, Agent Green. Malcolm stopped. Holloway's voice was softer now, almost amused. You took down Victoria. Good job. A pause. But tell me, how? Malcolm's breath caught. He turned sharply. What did you say? Holloway just smiled. Cold. Cruel. Malcolm's pulse thundered. His mother. Holloway knew about her. He knew where she was. And that meant the game had changed. Malcolm wasn't just hunting Holloway. Holloway was hunting him. Malcolm's body went rigid. His mind screamed at him to stay calm, to not show weakness. But the moment Holloway mentioned his mother, something inside him snapped. This wasn't just another mission. It was personal now. Holloway leaned back in his chair, watching Malcolm with amusement. You look tense, he mused. You should relax. Family is important, don't you think? Malcolm forced his fists to unclench. His pulse was hammering, but he couldn't let Holloway see how deep he had cut. I don't know what you think you're doing, Malcolm said, his voice even. But if you go near my family, I will. Holloway raised a hand. Now, Agent Green, let's not get ahead of ourselves. His smile remained, but there was something dark in his eyes. I was simply making conversation. But if I were to send someone to pay your dear mother a visit, well, he let out a soft chuckle. Wouldn't that be unfortunate? Malcolm's blood ran hot. This man wasn't just powerful. He was playing a different game. Caldwell had been reckless. Holloway? He was controlled, calculated. A man who made threats sound like casual conversation. Malcolm took a slow breath. He couldn't lose control. That's what Holloway wanted. Instead, he smiled. A sharp, dangerous smile. You talk too much, Malcolm said. That's a bad habit. Holloway's brows lifted slightly, but his smirk didn't fade. Malcolm took a step forward, closing the distance between them. You want me to be afraid? You wanted to back off? He tilted his head. You're scared, Holloway. Holloway's eyes flashed, just for a second. And Malcolm saw it. A crack. It wasn't much, but it was there. You wouldn't be threatening me if I wasn't a problem, Malcolm continued. You wouldn't have replaced Caldwell so fast if you weren't desperate. Holloway's smirk finally faded. Bingo. Malcolm had struck a nerve. You can put on your little show, Malcolm said. Try to intimidate me, but you know what's coming. Silence stretched between them. Then Holloway exhaled, shaking his head. I like you, Agent Green. His smile returned, but it was different now. Forced. That's why I'm giving you a chance. Malcolm folded his arms. To do what? To walk away. Holloway's voice was velvet smooth. Go back to the FBI. Tell them there's nothing here. Take a vacation. Forget about me. Malcolm let out a low chuckle. And if I don't? Holloway's face darkened. Then the people you love start disappearing. That did it. Malcolm's jaw clenched, but he refused to react. Instead, he turned and walked toward the door. But before leaving, he paused and looked over his shoulder. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts, Malcolm said, because I'm coming for you. Holloway smiled again, but this time, his fingers tightened around his wine glass. Without another word, Malcolm walked out. But inside, he was boiling. Holloway had crossed a line, and now it was war. 3 hours later, Malcolm sat in the FBI command center, staring at the files on Holloway. Lisa paced beside him. We need to move your mother, she said. Tonight. Malcolm nodded. Already called my brother. He's getting her out of the house. Lisa sighed, rubbing her temples. This is bad, Malcolm. Holloway's not like Caldwell. He's connected. If we make one wrong move, he'll have the whole system covering for him. Malcolm leaned forward. Then we won't make a wrong move. Lisa stopped pacing. You have a plan? Malcolm's eyes burned with determination. We're not taking Holloway down the way we did Caldwell. He gestured to the files. He's too careful, too powerful. Lisa frowned. Then how do we get him? Malcolm tapped the table. We don't go for him. Lisa's eyes widened. You want to go after his people. Malcolm nodded. We cut off his power. One by one. Lisa exhaled. That's risky. Yeah, Malcolm said. But it's the only way. They needed to bleed Holloway dry. And the first target? The man who cleaned his money. 2 nights later, midnight. A sleek, black Mercedes pulled up in front of an exclusive private club downtown. The driver stepped out, opening the door for the man inside. Marcus Devlin, a corrupt banker. He was Holloway's money man, the one who made sure the judge's illegal earnings were washed clean. And Malcolm was watching him. From across the street, inside a dark SUV, Malcolm and Lisa sat in silence. Devlin doesn't have security? Lisa asked. He doesn't need it, Malcolm replied. He thinks he's untouchable. Lisa pulled out her phone, checking the tracker they had placed on Devlin's car earlier. He won't see us coming. Malcolm's eyes stayed locked on the club entrance. Let's go. They slipped out of the SUV and moved toward the alleyway near the club. The plan was simple. Isolate Devlin. Get him alone. And then, make him talk. They waited. Then, after about an hour, Devlin stumbled out of the club, slightly drunk, adjusting his expensive suit. Perfect. He walked toward his car, mumbling under his breath. His driver wasn't there yet. Even better. Malcolm moved first. In a blur, he grabbed Devlin and yanked him into the alley. Lisa followed, covering his mouth before he could scream. Devlin's eyes bulged. He struggled, but Malcolm pinned him against the brick wall. Lisa leaned in, her voice calm but deadly. We're going to have a little chat, Marcus. Devlin's breathing was ragged. Why you don't know who you're messing with? Malcolm smiled. Oh, we know exactly who we're messing with. He leaned in close. But does Holloway know that we have you? Devlin froze. His face went pale. Malcolm's grin widened. Got him. Marcus Devlin's breath came in short, panicked gasps. His expensive suit was wrinkled from the way Malcolm had slammed him against the brick wall. His pupils darted wildly between Malcolm and Lisa, desperate for an escape that wasn't there. Malcolm leaned in closer, his voice low and steady. Dangerous. You're shaking, Marcus. Devlin swallowed hard. His arrogance from earlier had vanished. The moment Malcolm mentioned Holloway, something inside him cracked. Lisa smirked. I'll be nervous too. The last thing you want is for Holloway to find out you're here with us. Devlin licked his dry lips. I don't know what you're talking about. Malcolm chuckled, shaking his head. See, that's the wrong answer. Before Devlin could react, Malcolm grabbed him by the collar and dragged him deeper into the alley. He shoved him against a dumpster, the stench of rotting food filling the air. Lisa crouched beside them, her voice as smooth as silk. You think Holloway's going to protect you? She asked. Because from where we're standing, you're just another pawn. And you know what Holloway does to pawns. Devlin flinched. He didn't know. Holloway didn't protect people. He disposed of them. Malcolm's eyes locked onto Devlin's. Here's how this is going to go. You're going to tell us everything about Holloway's operations. Names, accounts, offshore holdings, the whole thing. Devlin let out a nervous laugh. You think I'm stupid? If I talk, I'm dead. Lisa grinned. And if you don't talk, you're still dead. Devlin's body tensed. Malcolm gave him a few seconds, letting the weight of the situation sink in. Then he whispered the real threat. If we walk away, Holloway will assume you talked anyway. He shrugged. He'll have you killed just to be safe. Devlin froze. Malcolm's words settled deep into his chest like lead. Holloway didn't take chances. If he even suspected Devlin had been taken, he'd eliminate him. No warnings. No mercy. Devlin's lips trembled. I can't. I don't know enough. Malcolm grabbed the back of his neck, forcing him to look into his eyes. You have 3 seconds before we dump you in the street, and let Holloway decide what to do with you. Devlin's body shook. He broke. All right. All right. His voice cracked. I'll talk. Malcolm and Lisa exchanged a glance. Got him. 2 hours later, FBI's safe house. Devlin sat at a metal table, hands still trembling as he gulped down a glass of water. Malcolm and Lisa stood across from him, arms crossed. Lisa tapped the table. Start talking. Devlin exhaled shakily. Holloway runs everything through shell companies, he said. Legit-looking businesses that are just fronts. He uses them to launder money from bribery, drug trafficking, even human trafficking. Malcolm's jaw clenched. He had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made his blood boil. Lisa scribbled notes. Names. Devlin hesitated. Malcolm leaned forward. Marcus. Devlin swallowed. There's one you should look at first. A law firm downtown. Whitmore and Slate. On paper, they're just a high-end firm. But in reality, he shook his head. They're Holloway's cleaners. They handle all his dirty money and cover up anything that could get him in trouble. Lisa narrowed her eyes. Where's the proof? Devlin wiped the sweat from his forehead. Their main office. Holloway has files on everything hidden there. Offshore accounts, transactions, blackmail material. It's all in a restricted vault. Malcolm exhaled. This was it. If they could get those files, they could crush Holloway. Lisa tapped her pen against the table. How do we get inside? Devlin hesitated again, but one look at Malcolm's stare, and he caved. They have biometric security, he admitted. Retina scans, palm prints. Only partners can get in. Lisa frowned. So we need a partner's biometrics. Devlin nodded. And I know just the guy. Next night, outside Whitmore and Slate Law Firm, Malcolm sat inside a surveillance van, staring at the monitor in front of him. Target acquired. Daniel Whitmore, Holloway's top lawyer, the man who handled everything. Whitmore stepped out of his black Bentley, dressed in a tailored suit, and walked toward the building. Lisa's voice crackled through the earpiece. You ready for this? Malcolm smirked. Let's get to work. Lisa exited the van, adjusting her sleek black dress. She looked like she belonged at a high-end gala, not in the middle of an FBI operation. She moved toward Whitmore, her heels clicking against the pavement. As she passed by him, she stumbled. Oh, I'm so sorry, she gasped, reaching out to steady herself, grabbing Whitmore's wrist in the process. Whitmore barely reacted, too busy checking his phone. No problem, he muttered before walking inside. Lisa continued forward as if nothing happened. Inside her palm, a thin layer of biometric gel. She had his fingerprints. Malcolm grinned. Step 1, complete. Now, they were breaking in. Later that night, inside Whitmore and Slate. The law firm was dark, empty except for a few night guards. Malcolm and Lisa moved through the halls like shadows. They reached the restricted vault, a sleek, high-tech security door. Lisa pulled out a small device, pressing it against the scanner. A faint beep. The stolen fingerprint worked. The lock clicked. Malcolm pushed the door open. Inside, rows of locked filing cabinets. Lisa whistled. We just hit the jackpot. Malcolm moved quickly, searching through the drawers. They needed one thing, proof. Then he found it. A USB drive. It was labeled, Confidential, Holloway Accounts. Lisa looked over his shoulder. That's it. Malcolm nodded. That's it. Suddenly, a noise. The distinct click of a gun being cocked. They spun around and froze. Standing in the doorway was a security guard. His gun was aimed directly at Malcolm's head. Don't move, the guard ordered. Lisa's hand hovered near her weapon, but Malcolm knew they wouldn't make it in time. Then, the guard pulled out a radio. A crackling voice came through the speaker. Sir, we have a situation. Tell Holloway. Agent Green is here. Malcolm's blood turned to ice. Holloway knew. They had walked into a trap. Malcolm's mind raced. The guard had them at gunpoint. His finger hovered over the trigger, his radio still crackling with static. Don't move, Agent Green, the guard repeated, stepping closer. Boss says to keep you here until he arrives. Holloway was coming, and Malcolm knew one thing for sure. If Holloway got his hands on them, they weren't making it out alive. Lisa's eyes flickered toward Malcolm, a silent message passing between them. They had one shot, 1 second to act. Then, Malcolm moved. In a blur, he grabbed the nearest file cabinet and shoved it forward. The heavy metal drawer slammed into the guard's gun hand, throwing off his aim. The gun fired. Bang! The bullet grazed the wall, missing Malcolm's head by inches. Lisa didn't hesitate. She lunged, slamming the guard's wrist against the metal cabinet, making him drop the gun. It clattered to the floor. Malcolm was already on him. With a swift move, he grabbed the guard's collar and spun him around, slamming him against the wall. The guard struggled, but Malcolm was faster, stronger. A quick punch to the ribs, then an elbow to the temple. The guard collapsed. Lisa exhaled sharply. "We need to go. Now." Malcolm grabbed the USB drive off the desk and stuffed it into his pocket. Alarms started blaring throughout the building. They had seconds before backup arrived. Lisa yanked open the door, peering down the hallway. Footsteps. Multiple. Heavy boots pounding against the floor. Malcolm gritted his teeth. They were surrounded. Lisa pulled out her gun. "We're not getting out the way we came." Malcolm's eyes darted across the office, scanning for an exit. His gaze landed on the window. 6 floors up. It was a risk. A big one. But it was their only way out. "Window," Malcolm said. Lisa didn't argue. They sprinted toward it. Malcolm grabbed a chair and swung it hard, shattering the glass into a million pieces. Cold wind rushed into the room, the city lights glowing far below them. Lisa peeked out. "That's a long drop." Malcolm spotted a fire escape 3 feet away. "I've done worse," he muttered. Lisa rolled her eyes. "One day, I'm making you take a desk job." "Not happening," Malcolm said. Footsteps pounded closer. "No time." Malcolm backed up, took a running start, and jumped. For a split second, he was in free fall. Then, his fingers caught the fire escape railing. Metal bit into his skin as he held on tight. Lisa followed, leaping gracefully and landing beside him. Inside the office, they heard shouting. They went out the window. Malcolm grabbed Lisa's wrist. "Move!" They raced down the fire escape. Metal creaked beneath them as they jumped over railings, moving as fast as they could. Behind them, guards appeared at the broken window. Gunfire erupted. Bullets ripped through the metal stairs, shattering against the brick wall. Lisa yelped as a bullet whizzed past her ear. Malcolm grabbed her waist, yanking her down just in time. They kept moving. For stories. 3, 2. Finally, they hit the bottom. A black SUV screeched to a stop in the alleyway. The back door flew open. Lisa's voice lit up. "That's our ride." Without hesitation, they dived inside. The car peeled off just as more bullets shattered the pavement behind them. Lisa twisted in her seat, panting. That was close. Malcolm clutched the USB drive in his pocket, his heart hammering. "We got what we came for," he said. Lisa nodded. "But now?" Malcolm's eyes darkened. "Now, Holloway knows we're coming for him." FBI's safe house, 2 hours later. The tension was thick. Malcolm plugged the USB into a laptop, watching his files loaded onto the screen. Lisa and Director Carter stood behind him, their faces grim. Numbers flashed. Account records. Offshore transactions. And then, a list of names. Malcolm's blood went cold. Holloway's entire operation was laid out in front of them. Lisa whispered, "He owns judges, police chiefs, senators." Malcolm's fists clenched. "He's bigger than we thought." Director Carter exhaled sharply. "We need to take this to the Attorney General." Malcolm shook his head. "No." Lisa frowned. "No." Malcolm's jaw tightened. "Holloway has people everywhere. If we go through official channels, this disappears before we can touch him." Lisa hesitated. "Then what do we do?" Malcolm's gaze burned. "We do this our way." Carter narrowed his eyes. "Meaning?" Malcolm leaned back. "We take away everything he built, piece by piece." Lisa's brow furrowed. "We already hit his money guy." Malcolm shook his head. That was just the start. He pointed to a single name on the list. Lisa's eyes widened. It was Holloway's fixer, the man who made people disappear. Damon Cross, a former military specialist. Ruthless. Dangerous. Lisa's voice was quiet. "If we take him out, Holloway loses his enforcer." Malcolm nodded. "And once Holloway doesn't have anyone cleaning up his messes." Lisa finished his thought. "His world starts crumbling." Carter rubbed his temple. You two are playing a dangerous game. Malcolm smirked. We already started it. Lisa exhaled. Where's Cross now? Malcolm typed something into the laptop. A location popped up. A private compound. A fortress. Malcolm's grin widened. Let's pay him a visit. 3 hours later, outside Cross's compound. The night was still. Malcolm and Lisa crouched behind a set of trees, staring at the heavily guarded estate in the distance. Guards patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras swept the area. Lisa exhaled. This is suicide. Malcolm smiled. Then let's not get caught. They moved forward, silent, invisible. The hunt had begun. The compound loomed ahead, a fortress of concrete and steel. Spotlights swept across the high-security fences, and armed guards patrolled the perimeter in tight rotations. Damon Cross didn't take chances. Malcolm and Lisa crouched behind a cluster of trees, watching the movement of the guards. Each one carried military-grade weapons. This wasn't some small-time operation. Lisa let out a slow breath. Cross isn't just Holloway's fixer. This guy is running a private army. Malcolm smirked. Good. That means Holloway is scared. Lisa shot him a look. We're outnumbered. Badly. You're telling me that's a good thing? Malcolm's eyes stayed locked on the compound. It means we're hitting him where it hurts. Lisa shook her head. You're insane. Malcolm chuckled. So you keep saying, but she wasn't wrong. There were two people up against what looked like an elite security team. The smart thing would be to call in backup. Except, if they brought the FBI in now, Cross would disappear. They needed to grab him before Holloway realized what was happening. Lisa pulled out her tablet, scanning the compound's security grid. Cameras on every entrance, heat sensors at the fence, motion detectors by the west wall. She frowned. This place is built like a military base. Malcolm studied the guards' movements. There. He pointed to a blind spot between two patrols. That's our way in. Lisa followed his gaze. That gap is maybe 5 seconds long. Malcolm nodded. Then we don't waste time. Lisa sighed. I really hate you right now. Malcolm grinned. Ready. Lisa muttered a curse under her breath. Let's do it. 10 minutes later, inside the compound. They moved like shadows, slipping through the blind spot and past the outer defenses. The air was thick with tension. A single mistake, and they were dead. They crouched behind a stack of crates near one of the smaller buildings. Lisa checked her watch. Patrol coming in 20 seconds. Malcolm scanned the area. They needed a distraction. Then he spotted it. A generator. Stay here, he whispered. Lisa started to protest, but he was already moving. Keeping low, Malcolm sprinted toward the generator, pulling a small knife from his belt. He reached it just as the guards turned the corner. With one quick slice, he cut the power cable. The generator died. The lights flickered. An alarm chirped, but the security system didn't fully engage. Instead, two guards near the main building turned toward the generator. One of them frowned. What the hell? The other tapped his radio. We got a power issue on the south side. Checking it out. Malcolm slipped back into the shadows just as the guards moved away from the main entrance. Lisa's eyes widened. That actually worked? Malcolm smirked. Told you. No time. Let's move. They sprinted across the open ground, reaching the door just as it clicked unlocked. Lisa pulled up her tablet, running a bypass on the keypad security lock. 3 seconds later, the door slid open. Malcolm slipped inside first, gun raised. Lisa followed, sealing the door behind them. They were in. Inside the compound. The air smelled like gun, oil, and sweat. This wasn't just an office. It was a war room. Maps covered the walls. Screens flickered with surveillance footage. Weapons were stacked in open crates. Lisa let out a low whistle. Cross isn't just a fixer. He's planning for something. Malcolm moved forward, eyes scanning the room. Then he saw it. A whiteboard covered in names. Lisa stepped closer. Her face paled. Malcolm clenched his jaw. These are targets. Journalists. FBI agents. Witnesses. And at the bottom, Malcolm's name was circled in red. Lisa pointed to the corner of the board. Malcolm, look. His stomach dropped. A picture of his mother, taped to the board. A single word was written next to it. Pending. Rage boiled in Malcolm's chest. Cross had planned to make a move on his mother. That meant they were already too late. Malcolm pulled out his phone, dialing his brother's number. It rang once, twice. No answer. Come on, Malcolm muttered. He called again. Nothing. Lisa grabbed his arm. We need to get Cross. Malcolm exhaled, forcing himself to stay focused. Where is he? Lisa scanned the security feeds. Top floor. Private quarters. Malcolm's grip tightened on his gun. Then we're going up. Top floor, Damon Cross's office. Cross sat behind a large oak desk, flipping through a confidential file. He was a massive man, built like a soldier, his cold blue eyes scanning the papers in front of him. He didn't even flinch when the door burst open. Malcolm and Lisa stormed in, guns raised. Cross simply smirked. Well, he drawled. Agent Green. Like he had been expecting them. Lisa stepped forward. Hand where we can see them. Cross leaned back in his chair, completely unfazed. You two have no idea what you've stepped into. Malcolm kept his gun steady. Where's my mother? Cross chuckled. You're too late. Malcolm's heart slammed against his ribs. Lisa glanced at him. Malcolm, we don't have time for games. Cross exhaled, shaking his head. You think you're winning, don't you? Then, he tapped a button under his desk. The lights shut off. Lisa cursed. Move. A loud crash. A gunshot. Malcolm dove to the side, rolling behind the desk as bullets ripped through the air. Lisa fired twice, but Cross had vanished into the shadows. The room erupted into chaos. Malcolm's pulse thundered. He could hear Cross moving. Fast. Too fast. Then, a blur of movement. A fist slammed into Malcolm's ribs, knocking him back. Malcolm gasped, stumbling. Cross was on him. A brutal punch to the jaw. Another to the stomach. Malcolm dropped his gun. Lisa fired, but Cross kicked her weapon away before grabbing her by the throat and slamming her against the wall. Malcolm forced himself up, shaking off the pain. Cross turned, smirking. You should have walked away. Malcolm wiped the blood from his lip. Yeah. He cracked his knuckles. Not my style. Then he charged. Malcolm charged. Damon Cross was bigger, stronger, and more experienced in hand-to-hand combat. But Malcolm wasn't here to fight fair. Cross swung first, fast. Malcolm ducked. The punch barely missed his face, the force of it cracking the wooden bookshelf behind him. Lisa was still gasping for air in the corner, struggling to stand after being slammed into the wall. She wasn't out yet, but Malcolm knew this was his fight. Cross came at him again. This time, Malcolm moved with precision. Instead of dodging, he stepped inside the punch, using Cross's momentum against him. He twisted, slammed his elbow into Cross's ribs. Cross grunted, but he barely staggered. Malcolm didn't let up. A second hit, right to the throat. That got a reaction. Cross stumbled back, coughing, eyes narrowing. You got a little fight in you, huh? Malcolm rolled his shoulders. More than a little. Cross wiped his mouth, then smiled. A dark, cruel smile. Then he moved. Malcolm barely saw it coming. Cross's knee shot up, slamming into Malcolm's ribs. A sharp pain exploded in his side. He tried to counter, but Cross was already on him. A brutal right hook, then a knee to the stomach. Malcolm hit the ground hard. His vision blurred. His ears were ringing. Cross stood over him, rolling his shoulders. You don't get it, do you? Malcolm groaned, pushing himself up to his elbows. Cross crouched down beside him. You think you're here to win, but you already lost. Lisa had recovered enough to grab her gun, but Cross saw her. One movement, a swift kick. Her gun flew across the room. She lunged for it. Cross grabbed her by the hair and threw her against the desk. Lisa let out a sharp cry. Malcolm snapped. Adrenaline exploded through his body. He surged forward, ignoring the pain in his ribs. He tackled Cross. They crashed into the desk, sending papers and monitors flying. Cross tried to throw him off. Malcolm didn't let go. He wrapped one arm around Cross's throat. A rear-naked choke, cutting off his air. Cross thrashed, slamming Malcolm against the desk, elbowing his ribs, but Malcolm held on. Tighter. Cross's struggles grew weaker. His breathing shallow. Then, the door burst open. Gunfire. Malcolm barely had time to react. Guards. 3 of them. One fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Let him go. Now. Malcolm released Cross, raising his hands. Cross coughed, stumbling forward, gasping for breath. Lisa, still dazed, struggled to stand. Malcolm's mind raced. They were surrounded. No weapons. No way out. The lead guard stepped forward, keeping his gun trained on Malcolm's head. Cross wiped his mouth, breathing heavily. Then he looked up, grinning. "You put up a good fight, Agent Green." He nodded toward the guards. "Kill them." Malcolm tensed. The guard's finger moved toward the trigger. Then, boom, an explosion rocked the compound. The guard stumbled. Cross's eyes widened. "What the?" Boom. A second explosion. The room shook. Malcolm acted instantly. He grabbed the nearest guard's wrist, jerking the gun sideways. Bang! The bullet went wild, hitting the ceiling. Lisa recovered just in time. She grabbed a heavy monitor off the desk and smashed it over a guard's head. Malcolm twisted, yanking the second guard's gun and slamming the butt into his jaw. The guard collapsed. Cross tried to run, but Malcolm wasn't letting him go. He lunged, grabbing Cross's collar. Another boom shook the building. Screams echoed from outside. Cross panicked. "What the hell is happening?" Malcolm smirked. "I called in a favor." Cross froze. Then, bam! The compound doors burst open. FBI SWAT teams stormed in. "FBI, hands in the air." Cross went pale. Malcolm yanked him around, slamming him onto the desk and cuffing him. Lisa exhaled, stepping back as agents secured the room. Director Carter entered last, his suit still pristine, hands behind his back. He glanced at the rec room, then at Malcolm, then at Cross. He nodded. "Nice work." Malcolm let out a slow breath. "Took you long enough." Carter smirked. "Figured I'd let you have your fun." Cross struggled against the cuffs. "You have no idea what you've done." Malcolm leaned in close. "Oh, I know exactly what I've done." Cross glared. "You think you won?" he spat. "You think Holloway's gonna let this slide?" Malcolm just smiled. "No." He pulled out the USB drive. "He's gonna run." Cross froze. Malcolm grinned. "And when he does, I'll be waiting." Later that night, FBI headquarters. Cross was locked up. Lisa sat at her desk, exhausted, rubbing her temples. "You really think Holloway is gonna run?" Malcolm leaned against the wall. "He doesn't have a choice. We cut off his money. His fixer's gone. He knows the FBI is onto him." Lisa exhaled. "So what's next?" Malcolm pulled out his phone. He had one call to make. His mother. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then, Malcolm, his shoulders relaxed instantly. She was safe. He exhaled, closing his eyes. "Hey, Mom." Lisa smiled softly, turning away to give him privacy. Malcolm's mother's voice was filled with warmth. "You sound tired, baby." He chuckled. "It's been a long day." A pause. "Are you coming home soon?" Malcolm looked out the window. The city lights stretched far and wide. His war with Holloway wasn't over yet, but he was getting closer. "Soon, Mom," he said softly. Real soon. The city never slept. Neither did Malcolm. It had been 3 days since Damon Cross was taken down. 3 days of silence from Judge Holloway. That was bad news. Holloway wasn't the type to stay quiet. He was planning something. Something big. Malcolm sat in a dimly lit briefing room at FBI headquarters, staring at the USB drive in front of him. It was their golden ticket, the key to everything. Lisa walked in, holding a fresh coffee. "Any updates?" Malcolm exhaled. Still nothing. Lisa frowned. "That's not like Holloway." Malcolm nodded. "Exactly." Then Carter entered, his face serious. "We've got a problem." Malcolm and Lisa snapped to attention. Carter placed a manila folder on the table. "Holloway just vanished." Lisa blinked. "What?" Carter tapped the file. 2 nights ago, he cleared out his mansion. Security footage shows him getting into a black SUV. After that, no trace. Malcolm's stomach tightened. "He's running." Lisa flipped through the file. "Where's his money?" His accounts were supposed to be frozen. Carter's expression darkened. They were. He pulled out a second folder. "But it looks like Holloway had a backup plan. Offshore accounts we didn't know about. Enough cash to disappear." Malcolm clenched his fists. "So, he just slips away? After everything?" Carter shook his head. "Not yet." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Carter exhaled. "Holloway didn't just disappear. He left the country." Silence. Then Malcolm said, Where? Carter slid a document across the table. Malcolm's eyes scanned the page. Then, he froze. Lisa read over his shoulder. Her breath hitched. Dubai. Later that night, Malcolm's apartment. The lights were off. Malcolm sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the phone in his hands. Dubai. If Holloway was overseas, the FBI's hands were tied. They had no jurisdiction there. He could escape, rebuild, come back stronger. Malcolm exhaled sharply. That couldn't happen. His phone buzzed. A text message. From Lisa. You're thinking about going after him, aren't you? Malcolm didn't answer. He didn't need to. Lisa knew him too well. A second message came in. Don't do anything stupid. Malcolm chuckled. Too late. He stood, grabbed his go bag, and walked out the door. The next day, FBI headquarters. Lisa stormed into Carter's office, furious. He's gone. Carter looked up. What? Lisa threw a file onto his desk. Malcolm. He took a flight to Dubai. Carter's jaw tightened. Damn it. Lisa ran a hand through her hair. What do we do? Carter sighed. We wait. Lisa shook her head. Wait? You think Holloway's going to let him walk in and take him down? Carter's eyes darkened. No, he said. But Malcolm doesn't plan to walk out. Dubai night. The city glowed beneath the moonlight, skyscrapers stretching into the sky. Malcolm stepped out of a black SUV, dressed in a sharp suit. He adjusted his cufflinks, blending in with the wealthy elite around him. He had one shot at this. According to his sources, Holloway was hiding out in a private penthouse at the Burj Al Arab. He wasn't alone. He had security, armed, professional. But Malcolm wasn't here to play fair. He was here to end this. Taking a deep breath, he stepped toward the entrance. The hunt was on. Dubai was alive with wealth and power. The city lights flickered against the glass walls of towering skyscrapers. Expensive cars lined the streets. Tourists and business moguls mingled in the open-air lounges. Malcolm wasn't here to admire the view. He stood outside the Burj Al Arab, one of the most luxurious hotels in the world. Holloway was inside, hiding, waiting, and Malcolm was coming for him. Dressed in a tailored black suit, Malcolm adjusted his cufflinks, blending in with the crowd of high-profile guests. His movements were calm, controlled, but inside, his blood burned. This was the endgame. No FBI, no backup, just him and Holloway. Malcolm moved toward the entrance, keeping his head low. He had one goal: get inside, find Holloway, and finish what he started. 30 minutes earlier, in a dark alley, Malcolm leaned against a sleek black car, waiting. Then, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Tall, middle-aged, Arabic features, sharp eyes. Yusuf Al-Fayed, a fixer in Dubai, the kind of man who could get anything for a price. Yusuf eyed Malcolm with amusement. You sure you want to do this, my friend? Malcolm didn't hesitate. I need access. Yusuf chuckled. Burj Al Arab is not an easy place to walk into. Security is tight. And if this Holloway knows you are coming. He doesn't, Malcolm said. Not yet. Yusuf studied him for a long moment, then sighed. You Americans, always looking for revenge. Malcolm didn't argue. Yusuf reached into his coat and pulled out a golden key card. Penthouse access, he said. This will get you inside. Malcolm took it. What's the catch? Yusuf smirked. No catch. Just don't get yourself killed. Malcolm turned to leave, but Yusuf's voice stopped him. One more thing, Yusuf said. Holloway has protection. Serious protection. A private military team. Malcolm's jaw tightened. How many? 4 men. Ex-special forces. Malcolm exhaled. Then I'll have to be fast. Yusuf chuckled. You Americans never learn. Malcolm didn't respond. He was already walking toward the Burj Al Arab. Back in the present, inside the hotel. The golden key card worked instantly. The elevator doors slid open, leading to a private corridor. The penthouse level. Malcolm stepped in, his heart steady. This was it. The doors closed. The elevator rose. Malcolm's fingers hovered near the gun inside his jacket. He had one shot. Then, the elevator dinged. The doors slid open, and Malcolm stepped into Holloway's trap. The penthouse, moments later. Malcolm barely took 2 steps before the lights flicked on. 4 men stood waiting. Guns raised. Ex-military. Professional killers. Malcolm didn't move. One of them, a bald man with a scar across his cheek, smirked. Agent Green. Malcolm exhaled. I take a Holloway knows I'm here. The bald man chuckled. Oh, he's been waiting for you. Then, another voice echoed from the back of the room. Slow, amused, familiar. Malcolm, Judge Holloway said, stepping into the light. He looked calm, too calm. His tailored suit was crisp, his gray hair slicked back, a glass of wine in his hand, like he didn't have a care in the world. Malcolm stared him down. I should have known you'd run, Malcolm said. Holloway chuckled. I don't run, Agent Green. He gestured around. I relocate. Malcolm's jaw tightened. Holloway smirked. I assume you're here to kill me. Malcolm didn't blink. If I was, you'd already be dead. Holloway laughed. Brave words, considering you're standing in my penthouse, surrounded by my men. The four gunmen shifted slightly, tightening their grips on their weapons. Malcolm ignored them. His eyes were locked on Holloway. You have no way out, Malcolm said. Cross is gone. Your money's frozen. Your network is collapsing. Holloway sighed. Yes, you've made things inconvenient for me. He swirled his wine glass. But you seem to forget something, Agent Green. Malcolm's fingers twitched. And what's that? Holloway smiled. You're not leaving here alive. Then, the bald man raised his gun. Malcolm moved. Fast. Before the trigger could be pulled, Malcolm lunged sideways, diving behind a marble pillar. Gunfire erupted. Bang! 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 Bullets shattered the expensive decor, ripping through glass and furniture. Malcolm rolled, pulling his own gun. He fired twice. Bang! One of the gunmen dropped. The other three spread out. Malcolm ducked behind cover. His mind raced. He was outnumbered, outgunned, but not outplayed. Lisa had once said he was insane. Now, he was about to prove her right. Malcolm grabbed a bottle of whiskey from a nearby table, smashed it against the wall. Then, he lit a match. The flames roared. A fire erupted across the penthouse. Holloway's eyes widened. You're insane. Malcolm smirked. You just figured that out? Then he ran. Gunfire chased him. Smoke filled the air. The penthouse was burning. Malcolm slid across the floor, dodging bullets, then tackled another guard. Crack! A gunshot rang out. The guard collapsed. Two left. Malcolm grabbed the fallen man's rifle and turned. Bang! Bang! Another gunman fell. Now, only one remained. And Holloway. Malcolm leveled his gun at Holloway's chest. The last bodyguard hesitated. Malcolm smirked. You can put the gun down, or you can burn with him. The flames were spreading fast. The last guard dropped his weapon and ran. Now, it was just Malcolm and Holloway. The judge stared at him, breathing hard. Then he laughed. You think this changes anything? Holloway sneered. There will always be more men like me. Malcolm stepped closer. His gun pressed against Holloway's forehead. You're right, Malcolm said softly. Holloway's eyes widened. Then, Malcolm pulled the trigger. Click. Holloway flinched. But no bullet came. Malcolm smirked. You're not worth the bullet. Then, he knocked Holloway out cold. As Holloway's body hit the floor, sirens wailed in the distance. Dubai police. Malcolm exhaled. It was over. Holloway was finished. And Malcolm? He was finally going home. Malcolm stood over Holloway's unconscious body, the heat from the fire growing unbearable. Smoke billowed around him, filling the penthouse with an orange glow. Outside, sirens wailed. Dubai's police were closing in fast. Malcolm wiped sweat from his brow. His mind was clear. His mission was complete. But he wasn't safe yet. He turned toward the broken windows. The penthouse balcony stretched over the vast cityscape of Dubai. No easy exits. No backup. Just him, an unconscious Holloway, and a raging inferno. Then, a voice crackled in his earpiece. Malcolm, are you alive? Lisa. Malcolm smirked, tapping the device. Still breathing. Lisa exhaled, relief flooding her tone. Thank God. I had a call on a favor with the Dubai police. They're sending a team up now. But if they find you here, Malcolm already knew what she was about to say. If the Dubai authorities found him in the middle of a burning penthouse, surrounded by dead bodies, with an unconscious high-profile American judge at his feet, they wouldn't ask questions. They'd arrest first. Where's my exit? Malcolm asked. Lisa was silent for half a second. Then, look to your right. The adjacent building, 15th floor. There's a maintenance ledge connecting it to the hotel. If you jump, you're telling me to jump 15 stories across a burning building? Would you rather explain to the Dubai authorities why you're standing over an unconscious federal judge in a crime scene? Malcolm sighed. Fair point. The flames crept closer. Time was running out. Malcolm grabbed Holloway's limp body and hoisted him over his shoulder. Lisa's voice sharpened. What the hell are you doing? I'm bringing him with me. Malcolm, that's insane. You can't. Malcolm ignored her. Holloway was his case. If he let Dubai's government get involved, who knew what would happen? Holloway might vanish, get extradited to the wrong people, or worse, by his way out. Malcolm wasn't letting that happen, so he took one deep breath. Then, he ran, straight for the ledge. The gap was huge, 15 stories high, a leap across a burning void. Malcolm's boots slammed against the balcony railing. And then, he jumped. The world slowed. Wind roared in his ears. The ledge was too far. For a split second, Malcolm thought, I'm not going to make it. Then, his hand caught metal, slamming hard. His fingers locked onto the ledge. Holloway's dead weight nearly pulled him down. Malcolm gritted his teeth, his muscles screaming as he swung Holloway up over the ledge, his body slamming onto the rooftop. Malcolm pulled himself up next. For a moment, he just lay there, gasping for air. Then Lisa's voice came through the earpiece. Malcolm, please tell me you're not dead. Malcolm let out a rough chuckle. Hate to disappoint you. Lisa exhaled sharply. Okay, there's a helipad on that building. I called in a favor. You got a private extraction in 3 minutes. Get Holloway out of there. Malcolm pushed himself to his feet. 3 minutes. He could do that. He grabbed Holloway by the collar and dragged him across the rooftop. His body ached from the fight, but he didn't stop. Not until the sound of approaching helicopters. Malcolm looked up. 2 aircraft hovered over the rooftop. One of them was Lisa's extraction team. The other one? Malcolm's stomach dropped. Not friendly. The final stand. The second helicopter was black, unmarked. Not Dubai authorities. Not the FBI. Holloway's people. A voice echoed through a loudspeaker. Hand over the judge. Now. Malcolm clenched his jaw. A side door on the enemy helicopter slid open. A sniper aimed down at him. Lisa's voice was in his earpiece. Malcolm, move. Get to the chopper. Malcolm didn't hesitate. Gunfire erupted. Bullets ripped across the rooftop. Malcolm dove behind a ventilation unit, yanking Holloway with him. The enemy sniper adjusted his aim. Malcolm knew he had seconds. Then he made a choice. He grabbed a flare gun from his belt, popped up from cover, and fired directly at the enemy helicopter. The flares smashed against the cockpit glass, erupting in a blinding flash. The pilot jerked, disoriented. The helicopter veered sideways. For a split second, the sniper was off balance. That was all Malcolm needed. He grabbed Holloway and sprinted for the FBI chopper. The door was open. Lisa was inside, reaching out. Malcolm jumped. Lisa grabbed his wrist, pulling him in just as the chopper lifted off. Holloway tumbled inside behind him, groaning as he woke up. The pilot shouted, "Hold on, incoming fire!" The enemy helicopter recovered. The sniper adjusted his aim. Lisa grabbed a rifle, leaned out of the chopper, and fired. Bang, bang, bang. The sniper dropped. The enemy pilot panicked and pulled back. Within seconds, the FBI chopper banked hard, speeding away over the city. Dubai's skyline blurred below them. They were out. Safe. Malcolm finally slumped against the seat, exhaling. It was over. Lisa shook her head. You're insane. Malcolm smirked. Yeah. Shad Holloway, still groggy. So what do we do with him? Malcolm glanced down at the handcuffed judge. His voice was calm. We take him home. Lisa smiled. About damn time. Malcolm stared out at the horizon. America was waiting. And this time, Holloway wasn't escaping anything. The FBI jet soared through the night sky, cutting across the Atlantic. Inside, the cabin was silent except for the steady hum of the engines and the occasional shuffle of agents moving around. Malcolm sat across from Judge Holloway, who was strapped into a reinforced chair hands cuffed to the armrests. Holloway looked defeated. No more arrogance. No more smug smiles. Just silence. Lisa sat beside Malcolm, arms crossed. "You ever gonna say something?" she asked Holloway. The judge let out a slow breath. "What do you want me to say?" Malcolm leaned forward. "Say it was all worth it. That the money, the power, the lives you destroyed were worth it." Holloway met his gaze, something dark flickering behind his tired eyes. "You really think this changes anything?" Lisa scoffed. "You're in handcuffs on an FBI jet. I'd say things have changed pretty fast." Holloway smirked just slightly. "There's always another man waiting to take my place." Malcolm exhaled. "Yeah, well, we'll deal with them when the time comes." The judge tilted his head. "And what about you, Agent Green?" Malcolm frowned. "What about me?" Holloway's smirk widened. "You think men like me exist in a vacuum? You think corruption just disappears because you put one man in handcuffs?" Lisa rolled her eyes. "You really don't know when to shut up, do you?" But Malcolm didn't answer right away. Because, deep down, he knew Holloway wasn't completely wrong. There would always be another Holloway. Another judge. Another politician. Another man drunk on power. But that didn't mean you stopped fighting. It just meant you kept going. Malcolm leaned back in his seat, arms crossed. "Guess I'll just have to keep hunting." Holloway let out a quiet laugh. "I look forward to the day you realize you're fighting a war you can't win." Malcolm smirked. "And I look forward to the day you rot in a cell." Lisa kicked her feet up. "Speaking of which, Carter called. They already have your trial date set." Holloway's eyes flickered, just for a second. The first hint of real fear. Malcolm saw it. "You'll never see freedom again," Malcolm said, his voice low, final. Holloway turned away, staring out the window, saying nothing. Malcolm let the silence settle. For the first time since this started, he knew it was over. For weeks later, courtroom. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, recorded conversations, witness testimonies, the video footage of Holloway mocking Malcolm in court. It all came crashing down. When the judge finally read the verdict, guilty on all counts, Holloway barely reacted. Malcolm? He just watched. Because for the first time in years, justice had actually won. The moment the judge banged the gavel, reporters rushed out of the courtroom, racing to break the news. Lisa nudged Malcolm's arm. "We did it." Malcolm exhaled. "Yeah." Lisa studied him. "But..." Malcolm glanced at the door, where Holloway had just been escorted out in cuffs. Then he smiled softly. "No, but..." For the first time, he felt at peace. 2 weeks later, Malcolm's mother's house. The smell of fresh coffee and homemade biscuits filled the kitchen. Malcolm leaned against the counter, sipping from his mug. His mother sat across from him, watching him closely. "You look tired, baby." Malcolm chuckled. "I'm always tired, Mom." She reached across the table, placing a warm hand over his. "Maybe it's time you stop." Malcolm hesitated. Lisa had already told him the FBI was offering him a promotion, a desk job. Safer, quieter, no more undercover work, no more near-death experiences. But could he really walk away? His mother squeezed his hand. "You can't fight forever." Malcolm met her eyes. She was right. But there was one more thing he had to do. Later that night, outside a prison cell, Malcolm stood in front of the thick steel bars. Inside sat Judge Victoria Caldwell. Her once pristine hair was disheveled. Her arrogance? Gone. She glared at him through the bars. "What do you want?" Malcolm slid his hands into his pockets. "Just wanted to see how you were doing," he said casually. She scoffed. "Screw you." Malcolm chuckled. "You know, I almost forgot about you with all the fun I had taking down Holloway." Her face twisted in rage. "That bastard left me to rot. If I ever see him again, I'll..." She stopped. Malcolm smirked. "Oh, you won't be seeing him. Not in this prison, anyway." Caldwell's lip curled. "So you came to gloat?" Malcolm shook his head. "No." He leaned closer. "I came to tell you something." She frowned. "What?" Malcolm's eyes darkened. "I don't stop." Her face paled. Malcolm took a step back, smiling. "Enjoy your stay, Judge." Then he turned and walked away, never looking back. 2 months later, somewhere on a beach, the waves crashed gently against the shore. Malcolm leaned back in his chair, sunglasses on, drink in hand. Lisa sat beside him, smirking, I still can't believe you took actual vacation time. Malcolm chuckled. Carter almost had a heart attack when I told him. Lisa raised her drink. To the first case you actually closed. Malcolm clinked his glass against hers. For now. Lisa groaned. Oh no. No. You're not thinking about work right now. Malcolm smirked. Relax, Lisa. He took a sip of his drink. Then his phone buzzed. Lisa glared. Malcolm checked the screen. A text message. Unknown number. You missed one. Malcolm's smile faded. Lisa sighed. Oh, come on. Malcolm stared at the message. Then, slowly, he set his drink down. The fight wasn't over. And maybe it never would be. But that was fine. Because Malcolm Green? He never stopped.